Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I did mention this article, 9 Things the Rich Don't Want You to Know About Taxes, in my previous video, and I'm going to try to go through this very quickly. Just so I can illustrate to you the real truth about taxation and the total distortion, propaganda, bullshit, and fucking lies that you're constantly being fed are proven to be lies by statistical evidence that fucking Keynesians refuse to look at or try to spin some way to deny. Of course, this all started with Ronald Reagan, and it was basically doubled down during the presidency of George W. Bush. This is the supply side economics. Lower tax rates will encourage more investment, which in turn will mean more jobs and greater prosperity. So revenues will go up despite lower rates. The late Milton Friedman, and I'm going to add this, a total fucking hack piece of shit asshole, the libertarian economist who wanted to shut down public parks because he considered them socialism, promoted this strategy. You would think that whether this grand experiment worked would be settled after 3 decades. You would think the practitioners of the dismal science of economics would look at their demand curves and the data on incomes and taxes and pronounce a verdict, the way Galileo and Copernicus did when they showed that geocentrism was a fantasy because Earth revolves around the sun, known as heliocentrism. But economics is not like that. It is not like physics with its laws and arithmetics with its absolute values. It is a total fucking joke, is what it is. That's for me. Let's see. Trends reverse. The bottom 90% saw their incomes grow faster than the top 1% before Reaganism. But since then, nearly all the gains have been at the top. Let me illustrate to you this. The first 90%, the bottom 90%, saw their income from 1950 to 1980, it grew 75%. The top 0.01% during that same period, 1950 to 1980, saw their income grow 80%. Something approaching fucking equity. From 1980 to 2008, the bottom 90% saw their income increase 1 fucking percent. The top 0.01% from 1980 to 2008 saw their income increase 403%. Myth number 1, poor Americans do pay taxes. Yes, they do. Well, there are a lot of people who try to say, well, there are a lot of people who earn underneath the poverty limits and they don't pay any federal tax, which is a crime in and of itself. Okay? But the fact of the matter is that the percentage tax burden on them is higher than it is on rich people because of local and state taxes. I'll give you an example. When it comes to state and local taxes, the poor bear a heavier burden than the rich in every state except Vermont. For example, in Alabama, the burden on the poor is more than twice that of the top 1%. The 1/5 of Alabama families making less than $13,000 a year, do you realize how fucking poor these people are? Pay almost 11% of their income in state and local taxes, compared with less than 4% for those who make $229,000 or more. So, the next time some shill fucking windbag piece of shit asshole tells you poor people don't pay taxes, tell them to shove it up their fucking ass. Number 2, the wealthiest Americans don't carry the burden. That's right. Despite what everybody wants to say, including the wonderful Senator Rand Paul. Quote, the wealthy do pay most of the taxes in this country, end quote. Let's see. It's true that the top 1% of wage earners paid 38% of the federal income taxes in 2008, which is the most recent year for which data is available. But people forget that the income tax is less than half of federal taxes and only 1/5 of taxes at all levels of government. Social Security, Medicare, and unemployment insurance taxes, known as payroll taxes, are paid mostly by the bottom 90% of wage earners. That's because once you reach $106,800 of income, you pay no more for Social Security, though the much smaller Medicare taxes applies to all wages. Therefore, people like Warren Buffett pay the exact same amount of Social Security taxes as someone who earns $106,800. Now you understand what a big tax this is, okay? And it's on the lower 90% of people. They do not include this in these federal figures, you understand, okay? So Warren Buffett pays as much as someone making $106,800 a year. This is why I've been saying all along that you need to remove the fucking income cap on FICA taxation and tax every motherfucking dollar for Social Security. How many ways do I have to say this? If you did that, there would be no problem with Social Security for as far as you could fucking see into the future. And you wouldn't have to modify the program at all. I don't even hear a single fucking person ever even talking about coming near this fucking issue. So the gap between the median wage, half make more, half less, and the average wage is growing 4 times faster than median wage because pay increases are going mostly to workers at the top. Okay? Number 3. In fact, the wealthy are paying less taxes. That's correct. Now, Internal Revenue Service issues an annual report of the 400 highest income taxpayers. In 1961, there were 398 taxpayers who made $1 million or more. So I compared their income, this is the writer of this article, so I compared their income tax burdens from that year to 2007. Despite skyrocketing incomes, the federal tax burden on the richest 400 has been slashed. Thanks to a variety of loopholes, allowable deductions, and other tools, the actual share of their income paid in taxes, according to the IRS, is 16.6%. Now understand this, okay? The highest tax rate is 35%. They don't even pay that. They pay half that. Less than half that. In actual real taxes that they have to pay. And they're published shills in their hate every middle class, poor, and senior mode that they happen to be working in right now for the corporate mandate. Want to give them a bigger tax break. Well, why do they need it? They don't even pay the fucking tax rate they have now. Now, compare that to the vast majority of Americans whose share of their income going to federal taxes increased from 13.1% in 1961 to 22.5% in 2007. That is almost double. So, the bottom 90% have an increased burden from 13 to 22%, almost doubling their federal tax burden, while the richest have seen their tax rate reduced to 16.6%. Number 4, many of the very richest pay no current income taxes at all. Yeah, despite what you hear. How about John Paulson? This is great. You're going to love this. The most successful hedge fund manager of all. Bet against the mortgage market, probably committed fraud, should be in jail along with all of Wall Street, but that's another issue. Paulson made himself $9 billion in fees in just 2 years. His current tax bill on that $9 billion, wait for it, 0! That's right, because Congress lets hedge fund managers put off paying their taxes to some point in the future. Presumably, sometime down the road, for his $9 billion a year, John Paulson will have to pay some kind of taxes. Theoretically. But it's also conceivable that he never will pay a single fucking dime on $9 billion in earnings. Do you understand that? Okay. Number 5, and surprise, since Reagan, only the wealthy have gained significant income. That's right, right-wing think tanks like the Heritage Foundation and the Cato Institute, who spout the kind of bullshit like this: when tax rates are reduced, the economy's growth rate improves, and living standards increase. That's from Daniel J. Mitchell, and I'm going to add this part. A piece of shit asshole fuckhead, an economist at Heritage until he joined Cato. He says that supply-side economics is, quote, the simple notion that lower tax rates will boost work, saving, investment, and entrepreneurship. Yeah, well, the highest tax rate when Reagan took office was 70%. He cut it to 50, then it went down to 28, and it was raised by George Bush and Clinton, and then cut by George Bush. Now the top rate is 35%. Since 1980, when Reagan won the presidency promising prosperity through tax cuts, the average income of the vast majority, the bottom 90% of Americans, has increased exactly $303. Okay? $303 from 1980 to 2008. That's 1%. That means if I earned $1 in 1980, I would be earning $1.01 today. Okay? Or through 2008, sorry. But the top 1%'s average income more than doubled. That's right. 100% increase for them, 1% for us. But the really rich, the top 1/10 of 1%, quadrupled their income during this same period of time. The top 300,000 Americans now enjoy almost as much income as the bottom 150 million. Okay. Number 6. When it comes to corporations, the story is much the same. Less taxes. Let's see. 2008, the last year for which data is available, corporate profits rose to $1,830 billion, which was up 12% from $1,638 billion in the year 2000. Yet, even though corporate tax rates have not been cut, corporate income tax revenues fell to $230 billion from $249 billion, which is an 8% decline thanks to loopholes. The official 2010 numbers are not in, but the percentage paid is known. In 2010, they fell further to $191 billion, which is a decline of more than 23% from the year 2000. Okay? Number 7. Some corporate tax breaks destroy jobs. That's right. That's right. Ha ha. Wouldn't have believed it, would you? Here, let's give you an example. Of course, American corporations are sitting on close to $2 trillion in cash that is not being used to build factories, create jobs, or anything else, but acts as an insurance policy for managers unwilling to take the risk of actually building the businesses they are paid so well to run. That cash hoard, by the way, works out to nearly $13,000 per tax-paying household. Now, in 2004, they passed a law called the American Jobs Creation Act, which allowed 800 companies to bring profits that were untaxed made overseas back into the United States. They would not be taxed at the 35% tax rate, but at just 5.25%. Okay? The companies argued that bringing the money home, repatriating it, they called it, would mean lots of jobs. In fact, Nevada Republican John Ensign put the figure at 660,000 new jobs. Pfizer, the drug company, was the biggest beneficiary. It brought home $37 billion, saved $11 billion in taxes, and almost immediately it started firing people. Since the law took effect, Pfizer has let 40,000 workers go. In all, it appears that at least 100,000 jobs were destroyed by a tax cut. That's right. And remember, the Republicans want to reduce corporate taxes more. Number 8, Republicans like taxes too. President Reagan signed into law 11 tax increases targeted at people down the income ladder. Reagan raised Social Security taxes so high that by the end of 2008, the government had collected more than $2 trillion in surplus tax. George Bush signed a tax increase too. It raised taxes on teenagers by requiring kids up to age 17 who earn money to pay taxes at their parents' rate. Well, of course, penalize the kids too. In fact, thanks to Republicans, 1 in 3 Americans will pay higher taxes this year than they did last year. Okay? That's reality, not myth. Okay? Let's see. And let's see, number 9, other countries do it better. We measure our economic progress and our elected leaders debate tax policy in terms of a crude measure known as the gross domestic product, which is bullshit anyway. Well, they go on to compare us to Germany, which, in fact, just about every other industrialized nation is far better. They may pay more in taxes as a percentage of their income, but a lot more of things that we have to buy out of pocket are included because they're paid for by that tax base. You understand, like healthcare and all these other things. So the next time someone tries to put this supply side Austrian fucking shit out there into the public, maybe you can counter that propaganda with the truth. And that is that the middle class and the poor are burdened with the greatest amount of taxation, while the rich and the corporations pay virtually nothing. And fixing Social Security is easy. Snap! Done! Remove the fucking income cap, as I've been saying for a long fucking time. So I don't want to hear about the burden of the rich and how cutting taxes raising revenues. Well, in fact, the very last part of this, okay? Supply-siders said lower tax rates would mean more revenue. Yet tax revenues rose after Clinton's 1993 tax rate hikes and fell after Bush's 2001 and 2003 tax rate cuts. Incomes through 2008, latest data, are up 4.3%. Corporate profits through 2009 were up 60%. Okay? So, cutting taxes does not increase revenue. Get it through your thick fucking skulls, you stupid fucking morons. Look at the fucking evidence. Look at the fucking statistics. Look at the fucking facts. The poor, the middle class, are all being shoved under the fucking bus because they're the ones who pay for all the taxes that support the fucking war machine, that support giving everything to corporations of the fucking rich, and now they want to give more to the corporations and more to the wealthy. And don't even want to think about taxing them at a rate that even approaches some form of equity. And this is what is fundamentally wrong with this fucking country. When even the so-called progressives, because they're all bought and paid for, corporate stooges, won't even approach the fucking ballpark that this fucking shit is playing in, let alone bring it up. But I hope maybe some of you can, to your dense, boneheaded, thick-skulled, idiot, Neanderthal assholes who continue to voice this bullshit constantly. I'll put the link up. Thank you. Good day.